but Philadelphia hits the money line. Appreciate all of you joining us as we go through NFL Week 13 up until 11:30, and then we're going to go over to TikTok Live to answer your questions to help you cash your bets and win your fantasy leagues. Appreciate the follow at Sports Fumble on Twitter, at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. As we move to the 4 p.m. slate of games, the 8-3 Miami Dolphins versus the 7-4 San Francisco 49ers on Fox is where we're going to start. The 49ers are a 4-point favorite where I see it, and the over-under set at 46.5 points. One note that I want to bring up before I bring up gambling trends, it does look like both tackles for the Miami Dolphins could be out for this one, which could make a big difference. So offensive line troubles for Miami. As for some gambling trends before we go around and give some analysis, the road team is 4-1 against the spread in the last 5 meetings between the Dolphins and 49ers. The Dolphins are 6-2 against the spread in their last 8 games following a straight-up win, but the 49ers are 7-2 against the spread in their last 9 home games. The over is 4-1 in the last 5 meetings between the Dolphins and 49ers, and the over is 4-1 in the Dolphins' last 5 road games. Adam, what are your thoughts on this big matchup between the Miami Dolphins and the San Francisco 49ers?
Well, it's all about the coaching of this game. Obviously, McDaniel coming from San Fran, Shanahan and him know each other very well. I think McDaniel could really put a good offensive game plan together, but you hit on it. There's a lot of unknown. Both starting tackles not playing this game is massive, in my opinion, against the San Francisco team that is just, defensively really good. Seems to get better every single week, and both of the boys in the defensive line could really cause problems for Tua. So I would be really careful with Tua and some of the offensive player props through the air for Miami for that reason. But on the other side of that coin, I think Jeff Wilson Jr. is going to want to have a good game. Coming from San Francisco to Miami, I think they might rely on him a little bit more. His over-under rush attempts right now is at 11.5. I think that can go over that number. Miami may have to lean a little bit more in the running game with both tackles out and not leave Tua exposed. But to that point as well, Tua is getting a plus 110 on an interception. Now, he's not thrown in an interception in the last 6 games, but because of that, those tackles being out and if they do fall behind, I could definitely see Tua throwing an interception against this tough defense. As far as line on the total, I'm going to kind of stay away from it on this one. I'm just not really on, I'd like Miami earlier in the week, but now with the tackles being out, I'm not a big fan of it. And you've been on San Francisco the last few weeks as the most complete team, maybe the best team in the league. So another player prop that I would play in this game, staying away from the total on the side, is Garoppolo. Over-under passing yards right now is at 249.5. He's gone under that number the last 4 games. And with Miami being a little bit poor against the rush the last 3 games, 133, I can see them running the football a little bit more. And also to that point, Miami's last 3 games, they've come down from 233 yards a game to only allowing 158. So I think under Garoppolo passing yards could be another player prop you could look at in this game.
Kyle, what are your thoughts on this big game between the 49ers and Dolphins?
I think these are 2 of the absolute hottest teams in the NFL playing up against each other right now. The 49ers, winners of their last 4 games straight. The Dolphins, winners of their last 5 games straight. The Dolphins obviously have the better overall record, but I think both of these teams are, they're getting hot, and I do think that the Dolphins not having their 2 tackles, their offensive linemen, is going to be a big issue this week, because the 49ers have at the very least a solid pass rush, one of the top 10 best in the NFL, whereas the Dolphins really thrive on their passing game. They've got the best passing attack in the NFL. Like per Pro Football Focus, the best, period, point blank. That's better than the Kansas City Chiefs, better than the Bengals, better than the Eagles. Nobody else comes close to Tua Tagovailoa, Tyreek Hill, and Jalen Waddle. But the problem is they have already a not so great pass blocking offensive line unit, and now you're taking 2 of their offensive linemen away. I think that I think the 49ers are going to cause havoc this week, and it is going to be like I said the Steelers and the Falcons were chaotic teams. This is going to be a chaotic football game. I see probably a lot of turnovers from the Dolphins side, and the Dolphins can only hope that they're going to be able to equally match those turnovers on the San Francisco 49ers side. But ultimately, I think I'm taking the San Francisco 49ers to win this one, because I think Tua is just going to get ravaged there in the backfield. I don't really believe in I believe in Tua Tagovailoa as a great quarterback, but just with the situation he's up against, I think it's going to be really hard for him to overcome what looks like a really, really great football team right now.
The name to keep the name to be aware of today is Nick Bosa. He's third in the NFL with 11 and a half sacks, and he's the guy who's going to be causing havoc in that Dolphins backfield, to Kyle's point, without the tackles on the field. I think Mike McDaniel will come up with a really smart game plan. We'll try to get the ball out of Tua's hands really fast. So I see a lot of quick passing plays to Hill and Waddle, but unfortunately, I don't think it's enough. I think San Francisco is the money line play in this one, much like Adam earlier in the week. I liked Miami as a cover play, so I do have some tickets from Tuesday on that. But I've liked San Francisco this whole week. I think they are the best team right now in the NFL. That said, once these tackles come back from Miami, don't be surprised if this is a Super Bowl preview. I know that sounds crazy right now, but I could absolutely see Miami making a run in the NFL playoffs. And I think San Francisco right now, other than the Eagles, is the class of the NFC. So that said, the Butt Fumble Sports pick for this one is San Francisco on the money line. I do like Miami to cover. I'm going to buy the 1.5 and try and get them on a cover play. I do think this is competitive. I just love their offense. So despite the tackles being out, I do have them covering with San Francisco on the money line. Appreciate everyone joining us on Twitter Spaces at Sports Fumble. Give us a follow. And of course, follow our speakers as well at Spotter AJ and at Kyle Phelps 92, doing a great job giving you some great analysis. And of course, follow us at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. We're going to go really quick on this next game because it is not one of the better matchups of the day. So guys, just give a quick pick and then we'll move on from it. This is the 6-5 Seattle Seahawks going up against the 3-8 Los Angeles Rams on Fox. This line has moved where I saw it earlier in the week. It was -7 in favor of Seattle with the over at the over under set at 41 points. But it's moved now that Matthew Stafford is officially out. This is a backup game for the Rams. This is a must-win for Seattle. Adam, Kyle, let's get some quick picks. Adam, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I don't think it matters. Perkins out, Wolford back in at quarterback for the Rams this week. It's a big number. I would just fold Seattle and some money line parlays on this one. That's about as far as I would go with this game.
Kyle, what's your quick pick for it?
Seattle, and Seattle to cover and to everything. The Rams are already bad, and now they're even more injured than they already were. They don't have Matthew Stafford. Seahawks.
I'm with these guys. I'm taking Seattle on the money line. I'm taking the under, given there's no Aaron Donald, there's no Matthew Stafford. Where are the Rams getting their points? So Geno Smith and the Seahawks offense could put up some points today. But other than that, Seattle on the money line and the under is the play for me. Let's move on to the next game. Big one in the AFC West. The 6-5 Los Angeles Chargers, chasing after a wild card spot, go up against the 4-7 Las Vegas Raiders, coming off their big win in Seattle. This game is on CBS. Where I see it, the Raiders were a 1-point favorite. I believe the line has now moved to -2, but the over-under set at 49.5. Adam, what's your take on this AFC West battle?
Well, I can make this one short and sweet. I am done with the Las Vegas Raiders. The last 2 weeks, I've gotten smoked in overtime. I had Denver, lost that game. I had Seattle at 2.5 last week. Carlson misses a field goal. They get another opportunity. Jacobs breaks that run. Like, I'm done. So if I'm ever on here breaking down a Vegas Raiders game, just mute me, kick me off the space or anything, because I have absolutely nothing to do with this team anymore in any game they're involved in. The only thing I will say is that the Chargers are getting really healthy. I like Justin Herbert. He's getting some weapons back. I know Williams is probably dinged up again. But again, and I said the last couple of weeks, Joshua Palmer is really emerging as a primary target for Herbert and as a wide receiver in this league. His over-under today, receiving yards, is 55.5. He's gone over that number 4 the last 5 games. And against this poor Vegas pass defense at times, I do like that. But as far as the side and everything in this game, I'm just done with the Raiders the rest of the season.
Before we go to Kyle, Blease, what do you have for us?
I like that take, and I want to hear your take as well, Wyatt, on that because I know you share a similar sentiment. But I just want to know why the line moved. Like when we did the Tuesday show, Chargers were favored by 2. Now it's shifted all the way to the Raiders favored. So what has
Yeah,
come
I
out?
think the reason for that twofold. One, there was some concern about Josh Jacobs. He's dealing with a calf injury. He is going to play today. And on the other side of the ball, Mike Williams will not play today. Mike Williams is out with an ankle injury. So I think those two big offensive players kind of shifted it. Maybe there's some other notes that I'm missing as well, but I know those two injuries played into it. Just before we go to Kyle, Blease brought it up. Adam brought it up. One of our two best bets last week. The one that didn't hit, we went 1-for-1 on our best bets last week, but we got burned by Josh Jacobs, the Raiders beating the Seattle Seahawks, which stunned me. The Raiders have been so bad this year on the road. And much like Adam, I was just kind of laughing to myself as he brought up his case. To me, like the Saw movies, this would be my torture chamber is I have to bet on the Raiders again, or I have to bet a Raiders game again. They have burned me so many times this year. I'd rather walk on a floor of nails or needles than bet the Raiders at this point. They have absolutely tortured me, and how they've beaten me every time I either put money on them or against them. They seem to go the other way. Kyle, how do you feel about this game? Are you getting any better insight on how to bet the Raiders than Adam and myself?
I would like to yield the remainder of my time to the chair. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I don't like this game. I don't like the Raiders. I don't like the Chargers. The Chargers should be so much better than they are, and this is what the San Diego Chargers and the Los Angeles Chargers and whatever Chargers they are throughout their entire history. This is just who they are, right? They underperform. They don't do what they're supposed to do, and they suffer as a result. But then again, the Raiders are really bad this year. You know, they won 2 games in overtime, one against the Seahawks, which they honestly had no business winning. But one of the most dangerous things in all of life is somebody who's like put in a position where they're forced to compete for their job. And that's Josh McDaniels. I think he may have saved his job at this point with these last 2 wins. I don't think he's going to get fired at this point, but it's really hard to say. That said, the Raiders don't really do anything particularly great except for run the ball. They like Josh Jacobs is fantastic. They're the best rushing team in the NFL, and that's great for them. But I don't think running the ball is going to be enough to just get a win. Like they had to they had to like drop nearly 40 points, or was it 40 points against the Seattle Seahawks just to get that win. Now, granted, they had overtime in the process, but I just don't think they're going to be able to do that against the Chargers. Like I said, I don't think the Raiders do anything particularly well. The Chargers, they don't do anything particularly amazingly well, but Justin Herbert is a talented passer of the football, and he's got weapons. The Raiders aren't particularly great at stopping the pass. They can do it, but they're not amazing at it. So I think I would take most of the maybe not the under, because I'm sure there'll probably be points scored, but as far as like the spread between the teams, I'm picking the Los Angeles Chargers, but I'm not picking them to cover. I'm not picking them to do anything spectacular. I'm just picking them to win, and that's it.
The Butt Fumble Sports pick for this one is Chargers on the money line and the over. I do think both of these offenses do impress today. I like what I'm seeing from Justin Herbert last week. Not only did he once again put up big stats, but that was a very big win. And to Kyle's point, I think Josh McDaniels might have saved his job the last 2 weeks. I think Brandon Staley is still fighting to save his job. The Chargers need to win. The Chargers need to make the playoffs. Otherwise, I think you may see Sean Payton as the head coach of the Chargers next year. So if Brandon Staley wants to stay in LA as head coach of the Chargers, he needs this win. The Chargers have performed well in their last 7 meetings on the road against the Raiders, whether it's in Oakland or in Vegas. They're 5-2 against the spread in their last 7 meetings on the road against the Raiders. I do like the Chargers for that reason and more. I do think the injury to Josh Jacobs will just limit him enough to not be as dynamic as he was last week. That said, you've already heard from me. At this point, betting a Chargers game or a Raiders game is more about how I just do it to torture myself every week. I try to put out picks for every game so I can help you guys make some money. But that said, this game is like trying to touch a hot stove. You're just waiting to get burned. So I'm probably avoiding it. I might throw the Chargers in the money line. I do like the over. The over is the only part of this game that I see because I think both defenses are bad. I think both quarterbacks are going to be chucking it today. That said, let's move to, if not one of the best matchups of the day, the best matchup of the day, and what could be a preview of an AFC championship game. It certainly was last year. The 9-2 Kansas City Chiefs traveling to play the 7-4 Cincinnati Bengals. This game is on CBS. You'll be hearing Jim Nantz and Tony Romo on the call. The Chiefs are a 2-point favorite. The over-under set at 53 points. Some gambling trends before we go around and break it down. The Chiefs are 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 games in December. The Bengals are 7-1 against the spread in their last 8 home games. The Chiefs are 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 meetings in Cincinnati. An additional note on that, the Chiefs have lost their last 6 consecutive games in Cincinnati. They haven't won in Cincinnati since 1984. As for the totals, the under is 8-3 in the last 11 meetings between the two, and the over is 8-1 in the Chiefs' last night road games. Adam, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts on this massive matchup in the AFC?
Well, I think should be the most fun game of the day to watch. One thing that popped up this morning is Frank Clark now is questionable with an illness, so obviously that hurts Kansas City and advantage Cincinnati. Mixon still has not been cleared from concussion protocol. From what I've read this morning, it's very highly likely he'll miss this game. So Samaje Perine will obviously carry the load again. He had 17 carries last week, and Kyle probably can speak to that a little bit better. Perine can carry the load to help that Cincinnati offense keep Kansas City off the field. But, I mean, Joe Burrow at home right now catching points. The Cincinnati team has been playing really well. You know, going to Tennessee last week and winning that game really proved to me that, you know, they're getting back in stride. Jamar Chase, I believe, is back for this game, so that only enhances that as well. The over-under number is just so high. Like, again, if you can buy that down to around 50 or 49 and throw some money on it for a fun factor, there should be a lot of points in this game. Obviously, Kansas City is number 1 in the league at 29.6 points a game, and Cincinnati is not far behind at 25.9. So I think you can see a lot of aerial attack in this one. A couple player props that I like. One I've been riding for the last 6 weeks, and the number keeps creeping up, but he keeps covering it. It's Mahomes. He's at 302.5 today. He's gone over that number the last 6 games, and I've been riding that every single week. So that's been a cash cow for me. I think Jamar Chase coming back from injury, I would lean towards his 72.5 over his last 2 games before he got hurt. He had 15 receptions for 260 yards and 4 touchdowns. So obviously Jamar Chase is a game changer, but Burrow's just playing so well. I think this team is getting better every single week. And like I said, I think Kyle can speak a little bit more about that. The only question I have is if Perine can carry the offense enough running the football to keep Kansas City off the field, because either way, one of these teams will fall behind and they're going to be chucking the ball around to get back in it. So that's kind of my analysis on it. I would buy the over down a little bit and jump on that one. But again, that Mahomes over player prop is cash the last 6 weeks, so I would keep riding that one.
Okay, Kyle, let's hear what your take is for your Bengals hosting the Chiefs.
So full disclosure, I cover the Cincinnati Bengals for a living, but I am also a Cincinnati Bengals fan, and I don't hide that. So my advice for all of you is don't listen to what I say as far as like taking any gambling advice, because honestly, I refuse to gamble on the Bengals myself because I know that I'm biased as far as like, you know, picking a team. I always try to be unbiased with my analysis, but I'm not going to be honest, man. Like, you know, I would not bet on my advice on the Bengals. You know, that said, one thing I would say people should bet on is the Cincinnati Bengals to do everything they did last year, like verbatim. It hasn't been perfect this year, but they've done everything almost exactly the same way that they did it last year. They started out 0-2. They didn't start out 0-2 last year, but part of that is because Dalvin Cook supposedly fumbled, you know, in week 1 of last year. And if that hadn't happened, the Bengals would have lost by a field goal. They would have started 0-2 because of the way they played against the Chicago Bears. Since then, they've picked themselves up, and, you know, they're at the same exact points right now that they were last season. They were 7-4. Now they're 7-4. They're beating the Tennessee Titans. They're getting hot at the right time. So, like, you know, whatever. I don't remember what the Bengals did this point last year, but whatever it was, pick them to have the exact same result. And that might not play out for you, but you have a much better chance of whatever they did last year, that they're going to do it again this year. I just hope, you know, the Super Bowl is a little bit different. But Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, you know, 1 and 2 as far as best quarterbacks in the NFL, in my opinion. Obviously, we all know Patrick Mahomes can't quite hold a candle to Joe Burrow, but that's okay because, the Bengals being 2-0 against them so far, I think they're going to do it again this year. But again, I'm a Bengals fan. Don't bet on what I say necessarily.
And I am seeing Joe Mixon might be out, and they have a bye week next week, so they could hold him back.
Yeah,
that is true, but Jamar Chase is back, though.
Thank you, Blease. I was just going to say, I believe Mixon's not only going to be out, but to Adam's point, I think a big injury in this one or absence is going to be Frank Clark with that illness. I think his lack of presence on the defensive line of the Chiefs, that just gives Joe Burrow more time to attack down the field. Something I want to make note of because I think it's getting lost. We're talking a lot about Burrow. Obviously, we're going to talk about Jamar Chase and his return. But this Bengals offensive line, they look so bad early in the year. It takes time. We talk a lot about offenses looking bad earlier in the year because of the bargaining agreement between the NFLPA and the NFL, where there isn't a lot of practice time. Training camps don't mean what they used to. A lot of these players, especially in the trenches, aren't getting the same kind of reps and opportunities to build cohesion across an offensive line. I think that's part of the reason why you saw a rebuilt offensive line of the Bengals struggle early on. Are they perfect? No, they still make some mistakes, but this offensive line is playing way better the last few weeks. And that's, again, without Jamar Chase. Add Jamar Chase back to the field. I expect him to play today. And whenever he's on the field, you got to put him in your fantasy lineup. You have to believe he's going to have a big day because the connection that he has with Burrow is just special. It is on another level. That said, there are too many trends that tell me the Bengals are going to cover this game to not go with it. So the Butt Fumble Sports pick for this one is Cincinnati to cover. We're going to buy the 1.5. We're going to make sure that we get above 3. So we're going to be at plus 3.5. I feel like this is a field goal game or a 2-point game. Adam's point is dead on. Patrick Mahomes, right now, he's the MVP in the league. He's going to put up big numbers. It's just a question of Joe Burrow can keep pace. I think he will. Who wins this one is still undecided to me. I could easily see the Chiefs winning, but to me, the Bengals on the cover is the best play of the day. As for the over-under, I would lean towards the over. I'm not going to bet it myself, but because 53 is so high. But that said, I lean towards the over, but it's the Bengals to cover. That's my pick of this game. We're going to end our NFL coverage for NFL Sunday this week with the Sunday Night Football game of the week between the Indianapolis Colts and the Dallas Cowboys. The Colts come in at 4-7-1, the Cowboys at 8-3. Guys, we got 7 minutes before we're going to end this show, so we're going to go through our picks decently quick, and then I want to get a best bet from all of you, one best bet that you'd like to make for this one. But before we do, let's get to Sunday Night Football. The spread on this one, Cowboys minus 10.5. The over-under set at 44 points. Adam, what's your pick for Cowboys at Colts?
So two teams really good against the pass. Indy's fifth. Dallas is number 1 against the pass. But both teams can give up yards on the ground. The one thing I would look at in this game is I would buy the points up and take Indy because I like teams that play good defense and can run the football. And Dallas is 24th in the league of giving up on the rush. So I think Indy can keep this game close. I'd buy the points up and take Indy. But the two things I would look at in this game is Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan is going to be under fire in this game tonight with this Dallas pass rush. So I would look at an interception player prop with him. But I would also look at his under 211.5 passing yards because I'll be honest with you, Matt Ryan back there, he's not been great. He's been sustainable, but he might get knocked out of this game. He's going to be under fire. I think Indy's really going to have to really heavily rely on the run. But I do like interception Ryan and under 211. But also at the same time, with Indianapolis being really good against the pass, I do like Dak at a plus 130 to throw an interception in this game too. So a couple player props, but I would buy it up to about 13 or so, and I would definitely take Indy with the points in this game.
Kyle, give me a quick pick for Colts Cowboys before we get to some best bets.
My perspective on this one is take the Cowboys. The Colts have been having a little bit of a resurgence with Jeff Saturday, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Cowboys have the best pass rush in the NFL, period. And they're going to bother Matt Ryan. And the Cowboys don't have the best run defense, but I don't think Jonathan Taylor has been showing us this year that he's going to be able to do enough to take advantage of that. So I think the Cowboys are going to, win. The Cowboys are going to cover. And that's all I have to say about it.
The Butt Fumble Sports pick for this one is Dallas on the money line and the under. I really like Adam's analysis. I think Matt Ryan is in the gun sights of this Dallas defense. Micah Parsons gets a sack. I think they're going to converge on him all night. That said, Jonathan Taylor could keep this game at least close enough where the under is a strong play. I don't see too many points in it. Not touching the spread. Think it gets a little crazy. Could see some garbage time touchdowns. Don't want to be caught in either way. I'll start the best bet segment for this one. The Butt Fumble Sports best bets so far this year have gone off at 17-8. We were 1-1 last week. The Raiders burned us. Classic case of that. The Butt Fumble Sports best bets for today for NFL Week 13 is the Jacksonville Jaguars and Detroit Lions over 49.5 points. After you buy a 1.5, we're getting that at -140. And the Tennessee Titans at +6 after we buy a 1.5. That's also at -140. Adam, what's your best bet of the day?
I'm with you on that Tennessee. I think it might up to 6. I think that's a really good play. And the other one, I like Washington with the money line as well.
And Kyle, what's your best bet for NFL Week 13?
My best bet for the week is the Seahawks to cover against the Los Angeles Rams. I just think the Rams, they ain't got nothing. The Seahawks are going to smoke them.
Appreciate everyone joining us on YouTube and on Twitter Space. What a fast hour and a half that it's been. Please follow us at Sports Fumble on Twitter and follow Adam at Spotter AJ, as well as Kyle at Kyle Phelps. These guys do such a great job, bring so much great analysis, and you can tell they know their stuff. Appreciate all they do for the show and all they do for Butt Fumble Sports. As always, Bleece, couldn't do this without you. We will now switch over from Twitter Space to TikTok Live. For those joining us on YouTube, please join us there as well. So YouTube, TikTok, at Butt Fumble Sports. We're going to go through every game once again with player props and gambling, but we're also going to answer your fantasy football questions, your betting questions. So if you want to reach out to me directly and we can get some engagement there, that's what we're going to be doing for the next hour and a half, taking you up to game time at 1. So appreciate everyone joining us this morning. Please go over to TikTok Live at Butt Fumble Sports and watch us there. But good luck on NFL Week 13. I hope you have a lot of cash tickets. Adam, Kyle, Bleece, appreciate you, as well as Tommy, Meta Party Vibes, Carol, John, Pete, everyone that's joined us.